Exodus chapter 4, verses 1 through 31, Bible Study Script, KJV.
Intro.
Today we continue the powerful story of God's calling upon Moses. In the book of Exodus chapter 4, verses 1 through 31, this passage reveals not only Moses' hesitation, but also the deep patience, authority, and purpose of God. Let us walk through this moment together, understanding its historical context, Hebrew meaning, and spiritual truth for our lives today. Context, Exodus chapter 3 through 4. Connection. In chapter 3, God appeared to Moses in the burning bush. There, God revealed his holy name. I am that I am, in Hebrew, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. This name expresses God's eternal existence, God's self-sufficiency, God's unchanging nature. Now in chapter 4, Moses responds not with confidence, but with fear, doubt, and resistance. Part 1. Moses' doubt and God's signs, verses 1 through 9. Moses says, "But behold, they will not believe me." This reveals a deeply human response. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, lack of self-confidence, Hebrew insight. The word believe here relates to amen, meaning to trust, to confirm, to be established. Moses is not just doubting people. He is struggling to trust God's promise, God's response. God gives 3 miraculous signs: staff to serpent, hand to leprous to healed, water blood. These signs reveal God's authority over nature, God's power over disease, God's judgment over Egypt. Spiritual meaning: God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. The staff represents Moses' ordinary life. In God's hand, it becomes supernatural. What is in your hand today? God can use it for his glory. Part 2. Moses' excuse, verses 10 through 12. Moses says, "I am not eloquent, I am slow of speech." Hebrew perspective. Slow of speech may imply lack of confidence, speech difficulty, or fear of public speaking. God's powerful answer: "Who hath made man's mouth?" God reminds Moses, "I created you. I know your weakness. I will be with your mouth." Spiritual application. Your weakness is not a limitation to God. It is the very place where God's power is revealed. Part 3. God's anger and provision, verses 13 through 17. Moses finally says, "Send someone else." At this point, God's anger is kindled. Yet even in anger, God provides. Aaron will speak for Moses. Moses will carry God's authority. Spiritual truth. God's calling is not optional, but God's grace still covers our weakness. Disobedience delays but does not cancel God's plan. Part 4. Return to Egypt, verses 18 through 23. Moses returns to Jethro and prepares to go back. God declares, "Israel is my son, even my firstborn." Theological meaning. This introduces a powerful concept. Israel, God's covenant son. Pharaoh, the oppressor. This foreshadows judgment on Egypt. Deliverance of God's people, ultimately pointing to Jesus Christ. Part 5. The mysterious encounter, verses 24 through 26. This is one of the most difficult passages. God seeks to kill Moses. Why? Because Moses neglected circumcision, the covenant sign given to Abraham. Hebrew covenant insight. Circumcision sign of belonging to God. Without it, covenant disobedience. Zipporah performs the act, and Moses is spared. Spiritual meaning. Before God uses a leader publicly, he deals with them privately. Obedience matters deeply to God. Part 6. Unity and worship, verses 27 through 31. Aaron meets Moses. Together they go to the elders of Israel. When the people hear, God has visited them, God has seen their suffering, they do one thing: they bowed their heads and worshipped. Final spiritual message. This chapter teaches us God calls imperfect people. God equips those he calls. God expects obedience. God is patient but also holy. Even when we doubt, God's purpose still stands. Even when we fear, God is still with us. Even when we resist, God continues his work. Modern application. Today, many people feel like Moses. I am not enough. I cannot do it. I am afraid. But God says, I will be with you. Your calling is not about your ability. It is about God's presence. Otro. As we reflect on Exodus chapter 4, may we learn to trust God more deeply, walk in obedience, and surrender to his calling. God is still calling today. Will you respond? Thank you.